No one expected Earth to fight back like that. The alien fleet came in silence, their ships cutting across the sky like shadows from another world. People looked up, confused, not knowing if it was a dream or a trick of the light. Cities paused. Traffic stopped. Then came the first flash of light, and the sky burned. The Xelari were not cruel by nature. They believed they were bringing peace, but peace on their terms. They had done it before planet after planet, offering a simple deal: surrender, be protected, be part of their system. Most worlds obeyed. Earth was just supposed to be another easy name on their list. But the humans didn't surrender. Not at once, not in fear. They waited, quiet, listening, watching. And then something strange happened. A single Xelari ship exploded over the Pacific Ocean. No known Earth weapon could have done it. Not with that speed, that power. The aliens grew cautious. A week later, Earth's satellites went silent. All of them. Every eye in the sky blacked out. No message from Earth. No warning. The aliens sent drones to investigate. None returned. The generals on the Xelari command ship began to argue. Earth, they said, was clearly unstable and needed to be controlled quickly. But then came the signal. A voice, clear, human. This planet is under Earth's command. Turn back now, or face consequences no galaxy has ever imagined. The voice wasn't angry. It wasn't afraid. It was calm. And it made the Xelari nervous. They sent their ambassador Threll down. To Earth in peace. He came with open arms. He came alone. He stood in the middle of an empty city square and called for humans to come talk. He called for unity. He offered peace. He waited for an answer. Only one man came, dressed in black. His name was Rourke. Not a general, not a president, just a human. He looked the ambassador in the eyes and said, "You made a mistake thinking. We're weak." The ambassador laughed gently, thinking it was pride. He said Earth's strength meant nothing before the power of the stars. Rourke stepped closer. "You came for peace, but you only understand control. We don't want control. We want freedom. And we'll burn everything before we give it up." The words were soft, but the air shifted. The sky rumbled. And for the first time, the ambassador looked uncertain. Threll raised his translator and asked, "Are you threatening the Xelari Empire?" Rourke didn't blink. "I'm warning you." He tapped a small device on his wrist. All around the planet, hidden launch platforms came online. Giant machines the aliens had never seen. Devices that hadn't existed in Earth's records. Technology. That didn't make sense. Threll gasped. "How?" Rourke whispered, "We learned from the last invasion, and the one before that. Every time a new empire tried to break us, we broke the rules. That's what humans do. We adapt. We don't just fight harder. We think different. We think dangerous." And as he spoke, the air itself started to hum. Threll tried to reason. This doesn't have to become war. But the sky had already shifted. A second Xelari cruiser exploded in orbit. Their own weapons turned against them. Their eye betrayed. Earth had hacked their system before they even knew a war had started. The ambassador fell to his knees. "What are you?" he asked in fear. Rourke looked up at the stars and said, "We are the species you hoped never to wake. We are what your empire fears in the dark. We are not monsters. We are the response." And behind him, in the city's shadow, more humans appeared. Not soldiers. Not armies. Just people. Silent. Watching. In that moment, Threll understood. Earth had united not through power, but through pain. Through every war, every attack, every betrayal, they had learned. And now they were ready. More than ready. They were waiting. For a reason to show the galaxy what it meant to push them too far. Rourke gave the ambassador a choice. "Tell your empire we don't want war. But if you try to rule us, if you try to chain us, We will show you what freedom really costs." The ambassador didn't speak. He simply nodded and left, shaken, his ship disappearing into the sky. But the war had already begun. The Xelari Empire did not retreat because they were weak, but because they were afraid of the unknown. Their ships circled far above Earth, watching, scanning, searching for the source of the human power they had seen. They found nothing, no advanced fleets, no superweapons, no hidden alien allies. And yet, 2 of their ships had been destroyed without warning. Ambassador Threll returned to his High Council with trembling hands. He told them everything. The humans had technology they couldn't explain, weapons they couldn't track, minds that didn't think like any other species they had met. The council laughed at first, then they saw the footage. Then they grew quiet. A vote was called. Some wanted war, some wanted peace, but most wanted answers. The Emperor of the Xelari gave the order: find out what makes Earth dangerous. Not through guns, through minds. So they sent another agent. This time not an ambassador, but a spy. Her name was Varanen. She was half machine, trained in 1,000 languages, able to walk unseen in any crowd. She landed on Earth quietly, far from cities, near an old forest where satellites could not see. From there, she moved like a shadow. She took human form, learned their speech, walked their streets. She ate their food, watched their stories, and listened to their children speak. And slowly, she began to see the truth. The humans were not the strongest. They were not the smartest. But they were something else entirely. They never gave up, even when beaten, even when starving, even when left alone. They smiled. They fought. They built again. Varen saw children playing beside ruins. She saw old men teaching others how to grow food from poisoned soil. She saw mothers laughing in the middle of blackouts, and it confused her. Where was the fear? Where was the weakness? She expected panic, despair, chaos. Instead, she found music. Stories, firelight in the dark. She saw people who had nothing, but shared everything. It made her hesitate. Then she found him, Rourke, the man from the square. The one who spoke for Earth. He lived not in a palace, not behind guards, but in a broken house near the edge of the city. He had no title, no soldiers. Just a tool belt, an old radio, and a scar over his eye. Varen followed him. She watched him help rebuild houses, fix broken machines, talk to orphans. He gave advice, shared jokes, lifted heavy things for people who couldn't. He was no warlord. He was a builder. A leader not by force, but by choice. One night, she broke into his home. Quiet, invisible, perfect. She wanted to see his tech. She found nothing special. Just scraps, broken circuits, notebooks full of hand-drawn maps and strange ideas. She turned to leave. And there he stood, in the doorway, holding a mug of tea. "You could have just knocked," he said. Varen froze, her cloaking still active. He couldn't see her. But somehow he knew. She didn't move. He walked past her, placed the tea on the table and said, "I don't know which empire you're from. Doesn't matter. You've already seen the truth, haven't you?" Her voice came out without thinking. "You knew I was here." Rourke nodded. "You've been here 3 days. You helped the little boy at the well. You caught that falling shelf in the market. You tried not to be noticed, but this isn't a quiet planet. We pay attention to the good ones too." She became visible then. Tall, silver-skinned, eyes like stars. She expected fear. Instead, he smiled and said, "Welcome to the mess." She asked him how Earth had learned to resist empires. He told her, by losing everything and standing up again. Every time. Until we learned to fight without needing to shoot first. She asked, "Then what is your weapon?" He leaned forward, voice calm. "Our weapon is what no empire understands. Humans don't fear pain. We don't stop because we're hurt. We grow stronger when we're broken, and we remember everything. every attack, every trick, every name. We write it all down. And then, we prepare. Viren looked into his eyes and saw no hate. Just fire, cold and endless. She realized Earth wasn't hiding super weapons. Earth was the weapon. The whole species. Forged by every invasion, every war, every betrayal. She whispered, "They'll come again, with more ships, more weapons. They'll try to crush you." Rourke stood and walked to the window. He looked up at the stars and said, "Let them. We're not afraid. We never were. We just needed time to remember who we are." And far above, the Xelari warfleet prepared for one last push. The Xelari High Command no longer believed Earth could be taken gently. They gave the final order, not to negotiate, not to study, but to conquer. The plan was simple: strike hard, strike fast, take out Earth's power grid, silence their leaders, remove their weapons, then install control towers and rewrite human laws under Xelari rule. 300 warships moved into Earth orbit. Clouds parted as they arrived. Cities across the world looked up. It was no longer a secret. This was war. Sirens echoed. But the people did not scream. They did not panic. They moved. Quickly, calmly, like they had practiced this before, in underground. Bunkers and hidden tunnels, strange devices came online. Machines made of both human metal and unknown tech. Some looked ancient. Others looked like they came from the future. Rourke stood in one of these bunkers, beside a screen showing the alien fleet above. He didn't speak. He only nodded. And all across the planet, human hands flipped switches. Viren stood beside him now, no longer a spy, but a witness. She had chosen to stay. Her report to the Xelari never sent. She had seen something in the humans she never found in her own kind, something worth protecting. The alien ships fired. Beams of energy fell from the sky. But instead of explosions, the blasts disappeared into shimmering shields around Earth cities. Invisible barriers had been activated. Not alien-made, human-created. Designed in secret by minds who were never trusted by their governments before. The invasions began, then came Earth's answer. Satellites that were never satellites turned and fired. Not lasers. Not missiles. Something stranger. Bursts of light that bent around gravity. Alien warships lost control. They spun, fell, cracked. Open like eggs. The sky became a graveyard of metal, but the war was not won yet. The Xelari landed troops. Thousands. Clones, walkers, hunters, drones. They dropped in open fields, on top of skyscrapers, in deserts, forests, oceans. It was chaos. But Earth did not meet them with equal force. Earth met them with traps. Whole cities turned into shifting mazes. Roads folded into dead ends. Buildings collapsed on command. Walls became prisons. AI-controlled systems led the invaders in circles. Water became poison to alien bodies. Sound waves shattered their communications. What they called technology, Earth had learned to twist. The Xelari commander sent a single, desperate message back to the Emperor. They planned for everything. They've been waiting. And then his signal died. Rourke led a small group through the ruins of old Berlin. Not soldiers. Engineers, hackers. A blind woman with sound mapping implants. A boy who remembered everything he read. None of them wore armor, but they moved like they knew the land belonged to them. Viren watched as they activated an old satellite dish, but not to send a message. To steal one. She realized they were listening to the Xelari fleet's private command channel. Every move, every code, every plan was now in human hands. Rourke looked at her and smiled without speaking. He didn't need to. The war wasn't about muscle. It was about mind. And Earth had turned its greatest weakness, being always attacked, into its greatest power. In the mountains of Tibet, a group of monks meditated inside a hidden chamber. Around them were alien machines pulsing. With quiet light, Viren asked what they were doing. One monk replied, "We're showing them peace by breaking their control." She didn't understand until the machines pulsed again and across the stars. Xelari command ships crashed without being touched. They weren't destroying the fleet, they were freeing it. Breaking control links, making the ships rebel against their own code. One by one, alien vessels turned and left the fight, not out of fear, but because they were no longer slaves to command. And then, finally, the Emperor of the Xelari appeared. Not in person. On every screen, every device, even in the sky. A hologram, giant, golden, furious. His voice shook the clouds. "Stop, this ends now. Earth, surrender and be spared." Rourke stood in the center of an open field and looked up at the face. He raised a hand and simply said, "You end this, or we will keep going. We're done kneeling. You taught us pain. Now we teach you something else." The Emperor laughed. "You think you've won?" Rourke replied, "No, we think we've changed. And you should be afraid of what comes next." The message cut. Silence returned. But the sky still burned. Asterisk. The Emperor of the Xelari did not speak again. His pride was too great. His anger too deep. He had believed Earth to be primitive, a planet of broken people and dead cities. But now, every second proved him wrong. His fleet was shrinking. His soldiers were trapped. His systems were no longer trusted. Earth had become something the galaxy never expected, a trap for empires. In orbit, 6 Xelari cruisers floated without command. The humans had disabled the command code strings. Those ships now listened to Earth, not because they had to, because Earth had given them a choice. And the ships, half machine, half conscious, chose freedom. Viren stood with Rourke as he activated a final signal tower deep inside the Andes Mountains. Around them, human and alien tech pulsed in harmony. She asked him, "Why are you not afraid of the Emperor's wrath?" Rourke smiled, "Because we've already lost everything before. We've lived through worse, and we've survived it." Far away, in an underwater city called Defiance, another human named Lena led a network of code runners. They weren't soldiers, just kids, old hackers, cyber orphans. But their code had torn through Xelari battle systems like fire through dry leaves. They didn't fight with guns. They fought with knowledge. And when a Xelari biomech dropped into the deep sea trench near their dome, it wasn't the humans who ran, it was the machine that tried to retreat. Because it couldn't understand how every sonar pulse it used was mirrored and confused. Earth didn't just defend. It played games the enemy couldn't win. Above land, more humans rose. Farmers with old EMP rifles. Engineers with solar disruptors made from scrap. A blind woman who directed ground resistance using only sound and wind. These were not warriors, but they were human. And being human was now the strongest weapon in the galaxy. In the deserts of Africa, a Xelari command pod was captured. Not destroyed. Rourke had ordered it kept alive. He wanted to show the young Xelari officers something. He brought them outside and made them watch a city rebuild its own walls using robots powered by sunlight. No rulers, no orders. Just people helping people. He said to them, "You were taught we're chaotic. But look again. We are wild, yes, but we are not mindless. We are many minds, and that makes us harder to break." One of the young alien officers whispered, "Then what do you want from us?" Rourke looked at him. "Nothing. We don't want to rule you. We just want to be left alone. But if you come again, we'll show you that peace can be loud too." Across the stars, other planets began listening. The broadcast of Earth's resistance was being watched by species who had once surrendered to the Xelari. Now they questioned that decision. If Earth could stand, why hadn't they? Hope became a dangerous thing. Viren sent a private signal to an old Xelari friend, a scientist now hiding on the moon Europa. Her message was simple. They are not what we believed. They are not violent. They are determined. Come and see it. For yourself. The response came in seconds. I will. I no longer believe the Empire deserves to last. Back on Earth, Rourke stood before a group of humans leaders from different zones. He didn't claim to be in charge. He didn't wear medals or speak with command. He said, "We're not done yet. The Emperor will strike harder. He's afraid. And that makes him dangerous. So we must be smarter. Not crueler, just smarter." One woman asked, "What if he sends a planet killer next?" Rourke looked toward the sky. "Then we show him that even death doesn't make us kneel. We fight with our hearts, not just our hands. And if we fall, we make sure our fall wakes every other world." The message spread faster than any weapon. Across Earth, humans prepared not for victory but for truth. They weren't fighting to win. They were fighting to be remembered. And that made them unstoppable. The Emperor watched from his palace far beyond the stars. He had ruled hundreds of worlds, crushed hundreds of rebellions, but this one was different. No leader, no army, no single point of failure. Just billions of stubborn souls, connected not by control, but by choice. He turned to his war council. "If we do not stop them now, others will rise. They will follow Earth's path." One of his generals replied, "Then we must destroy the planet." The Emperor's eyes narrowed. "Do it." And deep in space, the final weapon awakened. The weapon was called Voidhammer. It was not a ship. It was not a bomb. It was something older. Something built before the Xelari ruled the stars. A relic of a war that erased entire civilizations. The Emperor had kept it hidden for centuries. Now in desperation, he gave the order to wake it. Voidhammer did not travel through space. It bent space. It swallowed light, moved without sound, and arrived in Earth's orbit without warning. Every satellite, every scanner, every machine on Earth went blind in an instant. It was as if the sky itself had stopped breathing. People looked up. The stars were gone. In their place was a black shape, huge, silent, like a scar on reality. It didn't attack. It didn't speak. It simply watched, waiting, feeding on energy, time, fear. It was the final answer of an empire losing control. Rourke stood on the roof of a shattered tower in what was once Shanghai. His eyes fixed on the via. Darkness above. He didn't speak for a long time. Around him, the resistance leaders whispered of panic, retreat, surrender. But Rourke stayed quiet, then finally said, "This is the test. This is when we prove who we are." Viren stared at the sky, her hands trembling. "It doesn't make sense. That thing, it's not alive, it's not dead, it's hungry." Rourke nodded. "It feeds on fear, on surrender, on silence. So we do the opposite." He called for every signal tower to broadcast. Not to send war codes. Not to demand peace. But to play voices. Human voices, laughter, singing, old radio plays, prayers, stories, sounds of life. Of defiance, of memory. Earth would not go silent. Across the world, people came out of bunkers. They stood in the open. Children danced. Drummers beat rhythms on metal scraps. Old women sang songs from forgotten tribes. No one told them to. It was instinct, a response. Humanity's true shield was now visible. Voidhammer reacted. It pulsed. Cities lost power. Oceans churned. Earth's gravity shifted slightly. Mountains cracked. The weapon was waking up fully now. But still, the people did not hide. Rourke's voice came through every speaker, every phone, every chip. "Listen to me. We are not machines. We are not tools. We are not property. We are humans. We fall. We break. But we always rise. And if this thing wants our silence, it will choke on our noise." The Xelari Emperor watched from afar, expecting Earth to shatter. But something strange happened. Voidhammer did not fire. It shook. It groaned. It hesitated. For the first time in its long history, it failed to complete its command. In the deep labs of Antarctica, a group of blind engineers worked on soundwave technology. They had studied ancient frequencies used by lost species. Now they broadcasted those waves directly into Voidhammer. Not to break it, but to speak to it. The weapon heard them. And it remembered. It remembered screams from the last race it had erased. It remembered silence, emptiness, loneliness. And now Earth filled its core with music, laughter, pain, love. Things it had not heard in 1,000 years. Rourke climbed a tower in ruined London and looked directly into the black sky. "You are not our death," he said. "You are our mirror. And we choose to live." For a moment, everything stopped. No wind, no noise. Even the birds froze. Then came a soft sound like a deep breath. Voidhammer cracked. Its cell split. And from within, a burst of light erupted across the sky. Not destruction. Freedom. The weapon broke itself apart. Slowly, carefully, gently. Its parts scattered into orbit like ashes. No one had destroyed it. Earth had unmade it with memory. With emotion. With the one power no empire could replicate. So, on the Xelari homeworld, the Emperor's palace shook. Not from attack, from panic. Across his empire, other races had seen what happened, and they rose, quietly at first. Then with fire, protests, uprisings, collapsed control centers. Cities freed overnight. The Emperor screamed, "This is not the end." But his council had already turned their backs. Some fled. Some bowed. Others simply disappeared. His voice no longer mattered. Back on Earth, people wept in the streets, not from fear, but from relief. The sky was clear. The silence was warm. The war, though not over, had changed. The people were no longer victims. They were proof. Living proof that freedom could fight back. Viren looked at Rourke and asked softly, "How did you know that music, that defiance, would matter?" He placed a hand on his heart and said, "Because machines understand rules. But humans, we remember what it feels like to lose everything. And we refuse to lose it again." And far away, among the broken stars, the last warship turned and ran. The war was over. But the galaxy had changed forever. The Xelari fleet scattered. The Emperor vanished, his throne empty. Planets that had once feared his name now spoke it only in whispers. His empire, built over 1,000 years, collapsed in less than a week. Not from weapons. From one planet's refusal to break. Earth had done the impossible. They had faced gods and said no. They had stood when others knelt. And now the galaxy watched them with new eyes, not as a target, but as a teacher. Rourke stood in the middle of the ruins of Cairo, now a place of rebirth. Children played where tanks once rolled. Engineers wired new power lines using both human and alien tech. The people didn't wait for orders. They built their future together. Viren sat beside him, her silver skin glowing in the warm sun. She was no longer a spy. No longer a tool of an empire. She had chosen to stay. She had chosen to become something new. Human, in spirit if not in blood. She looked out over the city and said, "They will come again someday. Another empire. Another threat." Rourke nodded slowly. "Let them. By then, we'll be stronger, not because of better weapons. Because of better unity. That's the real shield. That's our true power." Far above, Earth's orbit was filled with strange shapes. Not warships, not satellites, but signals, beacons, messages of hope. The humans had taken control of the communication systems left behind by the fleeing Xelari. Now those systems spoke in every language, one message repeated on every frequency. "We are Earth. We are free. You can be too." On distant planets, Broken races heard those words and stood tall. The cry of resistance echoed like thunder through systems that had known only silence. Old allies of the Xelari pretended they had never served them. Former slaves began writing their own flags. The galaxy itself felt different, not just because the war ended, but because one truth had been proven: humanity, despite its chaos, its mistakes, its violence, had something special. The courage to resist, the madness to dream, the heart to endure. Back on Earth, a great gathering took place in what was left of the Amazon rainforest. Under trees that had survived both chainsaws and lasers, humans and aliens sat side by side. No thrones, no banners, just a circle. Rourke stood and spoke. "We do not ask you to follow us. We do not claim to be the center, but we offer what we learned. Empires fall, kindness stays. Build with your neighbors. Listen to your enemies. And if you must fight, fight to protect, not to rule." His words traveled through solar winds and radio waves, reaching even the cold moons beyond the edge of known space. Many did not understand his language, but they understood his meaning. Viren stepped forward. "I once came here to spy. I came to see weakness. Instead, I found strength in places I never thought to look. In songs, in broken hands, in children who planted seeds in burned soil. That is why I now call this world my home." Applause rose, not forced, but real. And in that moment, Earth became more than just a world. It became a symbol, a new kind of force. One not built on control, but connection. One that offered help. Instead of fear, the galaxy began to shift, not with war, with ideas. And ideas, once born, are hard to kill. The last known message from the Xelari Emperor came years later. A simple line broadcast from a dark corner of space. They showed us how small we were, then nothing. His name was never spoken again. Generations passed. Children grew up learning about the war, not through statues or parades, but through stories. Stories of unity, of resistance, of fire that did not burn to destroy, but to warm. And always the name Rourke was spoken not as a hero, but as a reminder that one voice, one refusal, one spark can light up a galaxy. And so, Earth stood, not alone, not above, but beside the stars, no longer hunted, no longer silent. Just human, unbroken, and forever free.